like to start on time. Tomorrow is Flag Day, so I'd like to invite the Sons of the American Revolution to come forward and post the flag. If we'd all stand as they come into the room. Gentlemen, come forward. I'd like to invite Andrew Carnegie to come forward and join the Sons of the American Revolution and lead us in the pledge. Andrew is an honorary American citizen, so we'd like him to come forward with us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And gentlemen, if you'd remain standing, I have a proclamation to read, and I understand that Andrew would like to get his photograph taken with the Sons of the American Revolution, and my counsel would like to also get in that picture. And so if we'd have a seat, I've got a proclamation to read. Andrew, you can stand up there with the patriots. Whereas the Continental Congress of the United States on June 14th, 1777, adopted the first official flag of the United States. And whereas the Congress of the United States on August 3rd, 1949, officially designated June 14th of each year as National Flag Day. And whereas the Congress of the United States on June 20th, 1965, adopted a joint resolution approved by the President to recognize a pause for the Pledge of Allegiance as part of national flag ceremonies and urged all Americans to participate. And whereas the city of Roswell has always been proud of our national flag and what it symbolizes, knowing that it stands for the best that humankind has ever sought and achieved in the history of the world. Now, therefore, I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, hereby proclaim our intention to share actively in National Flag Day on June 14th, 2011, tomorrow. Invite all of our citizens and everyone in this room to join in the common declaration of faith presented in the Pledge of Allegiance. And with that, first let's get Andrew to tell us about his experiences in the year he spent in the city of Roswell. Andrew, if you'll come to the microphone.
Well, I've been part of the Rotary Club in Roswell for the past 10 months or so as a student sponsor. Just been really having a great time and just doing whatever they've told me to do. And apparently that's not what normal students do, so I had a great time with them. It wouldn't have been the same without all the people. They've been the Roswell Rotary Club. I don't know if you probably have all heard of it, but don't know much about it. They're all really fun guys, most of them anyway. They took me to the Bahamas, which was an amazing trip. We helped out with the people, the kids there, their eyes. We gave them lots of care for their eyes and helped them see, because a lot of the teachers and stuff don't actually, well, they think they're dumb when it is, in fact, they can't actually read what the teachers are putting up on the board. So I think we did a great job with that, and just involved with the Rotary, doing all the stuff, helping out, seeing all of Roswell, living downtown Atlanta. Fantastic experience, and I thank everybody that's giving me this chance and opportunity.
Thank
Hopefully.
you, Andrew. I think we have someone from the Rotary here to present you with something.
Rotarians?
I think the council would...
Council, would the whole
if the
council please
would
come
join Andrew?
Yes, thank you. While they're coming down, we didn't want Andrew to leave without knowing how much we appreciate him. So we went to the state capitol and talked with the Secretary of State's office and said, we have had an outstanding young man in the city of Roswell this year. We've gotten to know him. We respect him. And he said, well, you know, Wise, first of all, have you taken him to the varsity? So Andrew had been to the varsity when he first got in town, and I've got a hat from the varsity that you can put on right now. Put it on. And we've got the varsity hat, so Andrew will take that back with him to Scotland. And when they ask, what is the varsity, tell them it's the largest outdoor drive-in in the world. And I also have a letter from Secretary Brian Kemp. Dear Andrew Carnegie, as Secretary of State, it's an honor as well as my pleasure to welcome you to our wonderful state of Georgia. We appreciate the Roswell Rotary Club hosting you for the Georgia Rotarian program you'll visit this year. I hope you enjoy your time here, and I know you will find Georgia to be a beautiful place. It's a beautiful place, isn't it? That's what you're supposed to say, yes. It is my hope that your visit to our great state will make for pleasant and unforgettable memories. Whether you have the opportunity to visit our North Georgia mountains, shop, or attend a sporting event in downtown Atlanta, to our historic antebellum homes, or see our sandy beaches on the Atlantic coast, I'm sure you will be met with sweet southern charm. Every place you've been, they loved you, hadn't they?
I think so.
Southern hospitality. Again, thank you for taking the time to let us share our history and culture for our state with you. If I can be of any assistance, do not hesitate to contact me. Sincerely, Brian P. Kemp, Secretary of State of the state of Georgia, and he wanted me to give you this letter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's have a hand for Andrew and the Secretary.
And now, Andrew, this is a high honor. This is a high honor. It says the state of Georgia, Secretary of State, I, Brian P. Kemp, Secretary of State of the great state of Georgia, do hereby proclaim Andrew Carnahan as an honorary Georgia citizen. May this honorary citizen be afforded every courtesy as a goodwill ambassador from Georgia in his travels to other states, other nations beyond our borders of the United States of America, or wherever he may hereafter travel or reside. In testimony whereof I hereto set my hand and affix a seal of my office at the state capitol in the city of Atlanta the 16th day of June, A.D. 2011. And I've got an official state pen that your Dave McClary. Dave and his wife have been the hosts this year. And Dave, would you please put that pen on your adopted son?
Yeah, that's right.
And it is with a great deal of pleasure that I say hello and please welcome our newest honorary Georgia citizen.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Sons of the American Revolution, for allowing us this privilege.
All right.
Call again. Here, post, call. Post, call.
Let's have another hand for the Sons of the American Revolution. Yes, sir.
Could we see you now?
Anytime I come down there, I have to have my entire council. So, council, if you'll please join me.
Come on down here.
They don't trust me to do anything without their help, and they do a great job of assisting me in everything I do. So I'd like them down here with me. Do we have a microphone?
Yeah, there's one right there. Yeah.
Hello? Is that working? Hello?
Mayor Wood, it is our honor and pleasure tonight to present you with the Silver Good Citizenship Award of the Sons of the American Revolution. And we're doing this because you were elected mayor of Roswell in 1997 and is serving your 4th term as mayor. Your goal has been to make Roswell a great place to live. Since your election, Roswell has been named one of the top 3 cities in the nation to raise your family, the 6th best place in America to retire, the 18th safest city in the United States, top 20 cities in the United States with a population under 100,000, and best place to live in Metro Atlanta.
Thank you, sir. I accept this not individually, but on behalf of the City of Roswell and the City Council and the citizens and the staff, because truly it takes the whole town to achieve that. We've got our recreation department is up for consideration of the gold medal. We have Ricky Burnett, who's going to be getting an award in a minute. We've got some award-winning golfers here. We've got visitors from Scotland. We've got the best Rotary Club in the state. All of those go into what making Roswell is great. So on behalf of all those people, thank you for that honor.
Congratulations.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Are we supposed to get a picture? All right, we just did. Has that picture been taken?
Yep.
One more group shot. Let me get right here. Up between y'all. Dylan, that was a surprise. Appreciate it. Thank you again.
Always our pleasure to be here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. And good job on the
Y'all
film.
did a great job on Memorial Day, by the way. All that heat and you still look so nice.
Appreciate it. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Prize. Next, I'd like to recognize our golfers. If I could call Morgan Rogers, or Joe Glover, who's presenting this? Morgan. Morgan gets to do all the fun work. Joe does all the work. Morgan has all the fun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. We'd like to thank you for allowing us the opportunity to address our city leaders. I would like to call to the podium now Mr. Will Penscott. Will is a Roswell boy. He went to Roswell High School and graduated from Georgia Southern University. He came to us about 6 months ago as an intern to learn the ins and outs of the Recreation and Parks business. One of the major aspects of his internship was the completion of a major project. Tonight is the culmination of this project, which included a partnership with a new Roswell business. Now here's Will to tell you about the project and to recognize a few of our special guests. Will?
Thank you, Morgan. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. On April 30th, the Roswell Recreation and Parks Department hosted the first Roswell's on the Fringe Miniature Golf Challenge. It was an all-ages event. We had a great turnout. We had actually over 100 participants come out, and it was a family event. It included some carnival games and inflatable slides and all sorts of other family stuff. We partnered with the Fringe Miniature Golf at Area 51 here in Roswell, and also had local sponsorship from churches and businesses. Each participant received a goodie bag that those sponsors helped with, like you would receive at a typical golf tournament. We actually have a few of those to hand out to you guys this evening. And we'd like to thank all our sponsors at this time. First and foremost, Scott Satori, owner of the Fringe Miniature Golf at Area 51, World Harvest Church, Roswell Presbyterian Church, Dick's Sporting Goods, Crown Sports Soccer Wholesale, Chick-fil-A, CC's Pizza, Brewster's, Orange Leaf, Sonic, Moe's, and Starbucks.
Good job.
And I personally would also like to thank Morgan Rogers and Jeff Knighton, who helped me greatly throughout the event. And at this time, we'll announce the award winners in each age group.
Very cool.
Starting in the 55 and up age group,
I think it's sacred.
in third place, Susan Drussel. In second place, and Susan had a score of 52. In second place with a score of 49, Nancy Hill. And in first place in this group with a score of a 48, Thomas Bolton. In the 18 to 54 age group, in third place with a score of 40, Josh Berry. In second place with a score of a 38, Anthony Garacci. And in first place with a 36, Jeff Meter.
All right, Jeff.
In the 15 to 17 age group, by default, our first place winner is Jonah Berry. And in the 13 and 14-year-old age group, first place goes to Katie Steedle.
Katie Steele. All right, Katie. Congratulations. Very fancy.
In the 11 and 12-year-old age group, third place with a score of 53, Nicholas Greenfield. Second place with a score of a 47, Rachel Walker. And in first place with a 43, Cameron Hand. In the 9 and 10-year-old age group, we had a tie for third place, both with a score of 53, CJ Ryan and Luke Rushner. In second place with a 52, Josh Robinson. And in first place with a 46, Blake Farbman. In the 7 and 8-year-old age group, in third place, Dayton DeLon. With a score of 52. In second place, with a score of 50, Carson Knighton. And in first, with a score of 46, Christopher Knighton. In the 6 and under age group, in third place, with a score of 62, Luke Hicks. Luke. In second place with a score of 60, Caroline Cardian. And in first place for the 6 and under group with a score of 40, Ryan Super.
Now we'd like to get all of Mayor and Council down, along with all of our winners, for a photo opportunity.
Morgan, I was going to say you need to invite us next time because when they have regular golf tournaments, I don't feel quite up to it. But given the scores these kids made, I'm glad you didn't invite me because I would not have shown well.
We have some great golfers with us. We don't have to
Some
come
great
up here
golfers.
so we can have some, so everybody can take a picture. That, you want to do that?
Yeah, in front of the dais. So I have to climb on the bench. Up. Go shift down. Yeah. Just squeeze in a little bit more. Yeah, I can back up just a little bit. Squeeze it. Yeah. There we go. There we go. Okay, everybody ready?
Smile.
We're good? Perfect.
Congratulations. Thank you, sir. Next, I'd like to call upon our fire chief to recognize a great Roswell fireman.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's always a tough job to follow Morgan Rogers and the Parks and Recreation Department. We're going to do our best to try to catch up to him. We appreciate the opportunity to come and showcase our fire department whenever we can, but tonight we want to showcase one of our employees. The District 3 State and EMS Awards were a couple of weeks ago, and one of the most prestigious awards that's given out each year, this is the second year, is the Pioneer Award, the Dennis Lockridge Pioneer Award. And we're so fortunate to have the recipient of that be a member of the Roswell Fire Department. Ricky Burnett has over 25 years of service in the fire department and EMS. He's done a little bit of everything, and today does a lot of everything. Some of the criteria for receiving this award was to play a role in the conception and development of Georgia's emergency medical services, continued enhancement of Georgia medical emergency services, and development and expansion of training at Georgia's EMTs, and must be involved in the public awareness and support of emergency medical services. Ricky Burnett has done all of this and more through his years as before he came with the city of Roswell, when he was with the city of Alpharetta, and a couple of ambulance services in his past life. But today we are so fortunate to have him as a member of the Roswell Fire Department, the Deputy Chief of Operations over the fire department, who oversees the fire trucks, the emergency medical technicians, the paramedics, and the rescue trucks. And tonight we would like to honor Deputy Chief Ricky Burnett for his achievement in gathering this award and having such a great presence here in the city of Roswell and the state of Georgia for what he does for EMS. So if we could have Ricky Burnett come up, we'd like to present him with the award.
Ricky Burnett, on behalf of the city of Roswell, I want to thank you for your service. I know they call it the fire department, but I think we all recognize that the bulk of the job that our fire department does and most of the calls are EMT calls. And we save people from fires and we save property, but we save even more people from heart attacks and car wrecks and emergencies. On behalf of the citizens of Roswell and all the folks who travel through Roswell and need the services of an EMT, we have you to thank for the taking a leadership role, helping to create that EMT system and making Roswell a safer and better place to live. So, Ricky, thank you. Let's have one more hand for Ricky. If the council would join Ricky and the chief, we'd love to have our picture taken with you, Ricky. Let's have all the fire there.
I'll squeeze in. I can't see any of you guys over here. Everybody showered. We're good.
Thank you. I can see you in the Now it's time to get down to business. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Wynn. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments regarding the consent agenda? Mr. Fleck, if you'd come forward, please give us your name and address and your comments.
Get this overhead on, please.
Mr. Fleck, if you could begin by telling us which agenda item you're addressing.
Number 2.
Thank you, sir. That would be the approval of a resolution to submit application for the Bureau of State Criminal Alien Assistance Program fiscal year 2011 grant.
I would like that explained in total. I want to know the dollar value. I'd like to know the reason, the logistics, and all the stats going behind that, please.
Mrs. Love, if you could address that.
Yes, sir, and Chief Orrick is approaching the podium as well. Last year, we received approximately $38,000 for this grant, and this is application this year. Of course, it will be based on the number of days of incarceration of those that have at least 4 consecutive days during the reporting period of undocumented criminal aliens. Chief Orrick can probably give you some other details. It is a no match for the city. We just provide the information,
That's fine.
and then we are reimbursed that dollar amount.
The what this is authorization for us to apply for the grant. We do not know yet how much that will be. We've got to compute all the numbers and send them in to the feds, and then at that time they'll tell us what our funding level will be.
So
Chief
this-
Orrick,
this-
I have a question before Mr. Fleck continues.
Okay.
I understand it's based upon undocumented aliens in our jail and number of days. How does the formula work as far as reimbursement? do we know what that number is?
As they described to me, as kind of like Chinese arithmetic on voodoo bones and chickens, I guess, to add a little humor to the point. Nobody knows exactly how they do the formula. We just present the data to them, and from there they'll send the funding back to us.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Fleckage, the floor is yours again.
Thank you. Since we don't have specific information, and since Mr. Ork is relatively new in his position, the questions and the documents that I wish to present deal specifically with the real costs and where the information is tabulated from within your own police department. This is a multi-page report that is presented or that is developed by the City of Roswell Police Department or Detention Center. And as you can see, if you just look here on this side, real simply it says citizens and the N means no. The nationality spells out what the nationality is. That's a pretty good representation. I think the actual percentage of non-citizens incarcerated in Roswell's facilities approaches 80% from the country of Mexico. That is additionally supported by the detention center consulate notification form, which is provided based on UN requirements that any detention center, any member of the United Nations must allow foreign nationals the right to notify their consulate. It'd be no difference if I was overseas and I got arrested. I would have the right to have my U.S. consulate notified. This is actually filled out by the individuals. There's a grand total for the year 2010 of 66 pages. It's close to 1,900 foreign nationals who identify themselves as non-citizens. That being stated, the actual dollar value for incarcerating foreign nationals in the city of Roswell, I've taken out all the yeses, and the rest is all the no's. It's over 5,000, nearly 5,050 days, and at an average cost, which was provided me by Chief Ork's predecessor, of $75 a day, which is what they used to invoice Alpharetta. We're talking about $378,620 annual cost to incarcerate illegal aliens in the city of Roswell. I would like to further, and I'm going on record because I don't think any of you have seen this, but I think this needs to be put on record. And finally, another analysis that's conducted by the City of Roswell Police Department itself is arrest by ethnicity. The orange line is the arrest of Latinos in the City of Roswell, which only represent 14% of the population. As you can see, it's escalated an astronomical figure to the point that the last 2 years it's actually exceeded the rest of all other ethnicities in the City of Roswell. I present this just as factual support of the need to pursue and request these funds from the state and the federal government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fleck, and we appreciate your support for this agenda item. Does anyone else have any questions or comments? Yes, Councilmember Price.
Is there any history or expectation that the monies received would offset that?
Last year, I think the fund was around $33,000, and they have a requirement that we have to have them in a minimum 4 continuous days. Undocumented aliens. Most of these people are coming in and out within that, so we don't get refunding. But yes, that would help reset a small portion of that, but only about 10%.
The answer is no. We do not expect this would compensate us for our costs, but it's better than a slap in the face, and it's all that's available. The citizens of Roswell, unfortunately, have an option of either not jailing these folks or putting them in jail. And if we put them in jail, we don't get compensated for it. And I think our practice is still to notify the federal government every time we have an undocumented alien in our jail and ask if they want to come pick them up, and we seldom get a positive response.
That is correct. They do come occasionally, but not very often. And also the second thing is we have to give them notification rights, and a great majority will not ask to see speak to their consulate as well. They will not ask to speak to the consulate.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. If you would like to address the council, you need to come forward and give us your name and address. And fill in the speaker card before you leave tonight.
Sure. Frank Berna, 435 Waverly Hall Drive, Roswell, 30075. Why don't we keep them 4 days so we get reimbursed?
Because it cost us more than we reimbursed if we kept them 4 days. Every day we keep them, we lose money. And so keeping them 4 days would not offset the cost of keeping them. It would be losing even more money.
Okay.
Yes, Chief.
Mr. Mayor, what I found oftentimes in federal grants is they'll fund a program for for a set amount, and then they divide that. They've devised the formula after they determine what that amount is going to be amongst the city's available services.
Thank you, sir. Do we have anyone else in the audience who wishes to comment or have a comment or question regarding the consent agenda? We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the consent agenda, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll call upon Councilmember Betty Price, liaison to the Community Development Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item is RZ 11-01, text amendment for sign code changes to allow additional ground signage and wall signage for properties with 1,200 feet of road frontage in the commercial zoning district. This is the second reading. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, thank you very much. This is a proposed text amendment to the sign code to allow for wall signage and ground signage for properties that are in excess of 1,200 feet of road frontage. This was passed on first reading. The discussions as part of first reading was requested by council for staff to look at parcels that would be between 800 and 1,000 feet, as well as 1,000 and 1,200, and what number of parcels would be over 1,200. At that time, I took a lucky guess at 25. There are actually 26 that would be over the 800 foot of linear road frontage. I emailed out this afternoon a listing that included that, since there was a request of actually knowing where the parcels are. So hopefully all of you received that this afternoon. That included that. The other request was dealing with what would we do in reducing it from 1,200 to 800. We go from 9 parcels up to 26 parcels. There was further discussion related to making sure that anyone or parcel that would be approved for a second sign would be required to bring an existing ground sign into conformance. So that language has been also added. Further discussion was taken as to we were removing the 70%, 30% sign base ratio. The first reading had the sign base being a minimum height of 3 feet. It has been requested to modify that to a minimum of 2-foot base and could not exceed a 5-foot base. The other area that has been discussed is related to page 3 of the text amendment dealing with the wall sign. We've had some discussion trying to determine the wall being parallel to the street frontage and allowing it to have an additional sign. I worked on some language this afternoon with the city attorney. Let me put that up so everyone sees the same words. On page 3 of the text amendment, dealing with the top table, we're dealing with number of signs that are allowed. There was some discussion dealing with how do we treat numerous parallel frontages which may have changes in direction but the same establishment. David and I, for about 10 minutes, tried to craft some language that controlled the numbers of signs per establishment for parallel public road frontages. So we are recommending that this language may be put into the number of signs allowed box if so recommended by council. And we have no pride of authorship, do we, David?
That's a good thing. First of all, I'm not sure I understand it. So could you diagram this for me? Because my command of the English language is not good enough to actually exactly be certain I understand what this means.
We have a parcel that has 1,200 plus feet of road frontage. These are 150-foot establishment, and this is one establishment in that whole building. The way we have hoped to try to draft it would be that they would only get one sign not to exceed 128 square feet. They would not be allowed a second sign or a third sign on those locations. I'm not sure we got it.
How many instances do we have where somebody has most of the buildings I've seen have one frontage and one solid frontage. I'm just wondering, where would this apply? Do we have an example of where somebody has an establishment that looks like this? I'm just looking for the practical impact of this.
I don't know one particular one. We were just asked to try to draft something if this was a possibility.
Does some other council member can enlighten me? I'm trying to figure out why we need this. Yes, Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was speaking with Brad Townsend earlier today, and one of the questions I asked him was, for example, in the center that this is all centering around the Roswell Town Center, in a case like Big Lots, where they have a long building and they have a section that's protruding, if we do one per wall, then would that center section get its own sign, and then each wall to either side, would that get its own sign? And his answer to me was yes. So that would be 3 signs, which is not our intent. So although it's not staggered like this, there would be a center section that protrudes out. And that actually happens in most large.
Let me see if I understand. Are you saying you can only put a wall sign on one side of the building? Is that what we're saying?
No. You have to take all the pieces together. It has 1,200 feet of frontage. It is one establishment, one entity in the building. I think what we're concerned with is...
Well, now, we had monument signs. We were talking about 1,200 feet of frontage. I understand it's the same ordinance, but I'm just trying to... I apologize. I just have a legal degree, so my command of the English language is a little limited as a lawyer, but I still don't understand this.
Okay.
And I hate, so please work with me here so I can understand it. I thought with the 1,200 feet, we were talking about monument signs.
It is monument and wall signs.
All right, so...
The ordinance deals with both of them, and that's how it was drafted. And
so if you have 1,200 feet, you get... And explain it to me. My city administrator has passed something to me, but I'm just trying to understand it.
Okay. You have 1,200 feet of road frontage. You are in any of the commercial zoning districts, OP, C1, C2, C3.
Right.
With that 1,200 feet of road frontage. The allowance would be...
Currently, you could have one monument sign. What's the current rule?
Yes. We were dealing with wall signs now.
All right. I'm taking it one piece at a time.
Okay.
Currently, we're saying part of this ordinance, as I thought I understood it, is that we were increasing the number of monument signs.
That is correct.
So that's one piece of it.
Yes.
And so currently we only allow one monument sign for a parcel of property.
Yes.
And what we're saying is that parcel of property has more than 800 square feet or 1,200 square feet or some square footage, you could have more than one monument sign.
That's correct.
All right. So I've got the monument sign down. Now you've thrown this wall sign in on me. Explain this wall sign.
You have the same 1,200 feet of frontage. You are allowed a wall sign on that wall. This allows for the establishment.
Now, most establishments with more than 1,200, most projects with more than 1,200 feet of frontage have more than one establishment.
Yes.
They have multiple establishments.
Correct.
All right. I'm with you so far.
The maximum wall sign that they would be able to get would be 128 square feet.
Regardless of how big that big box was.
That's the maximum square footage of the sign area, correct.
All right. So they get one sign for that side of the building.
Right.
For the establishment.
Right.
And what about signs on either the right side or the left side?
If they are corners and things like that, there are other codes that deal with those types of corners.
So what you're really saying is they only get a sign on one side of the building unless they're on a corner.
Right.
I understand that. Why didn't we say that? Where does it say that?
I don't know. It's somewhere in that code.
It's somewhere in that code it says that. Okay, well, I'm just saying this parallel to the street, I mean, I doubt if any of these buildings are actually truly parallel geometrically.
Probably not.
And I think the intent was to have one sign on that side of the building.
Right. I'm trying to...
Maurice and I, have trouble understanding these things.
I understand that, Mayor.
All right. I understand what the intent is. I'm not sure you're getting there, but I understand the intent.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councilmember Price.
I can think of at least one where the road isn't even straight, that it's got some waviness or curvature to it. So going back to that picture that you had, does that mean on the perpendicular walls they get another 128?
We could just take out the word parallel.
Okay, that would make more sense.
Now I understand it. That does make it's for simple folks like me. That gives clarity.
We complicate it too much sometimes, Mayor. That's for sure.
Other comments or questions? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City of Alpharetta sign ordinance has similar language, but they also, in parentheses, say corner tenants within strip shopping centers may have a wall sign on the end of the building in addition to the wall sign on the front of the building. So that accomplishes what we were talking about, and I think one of the things we were trying to accomplish here was for buildings that are in a corner situation, they are allowed a second sign, which they currently are not under our ordinance. Is that correct, Mr. Townsend?
Right.
So, I guess the question to council is, do we want to permit the corner, in a corner situation, having a second sign?
Can you read that one more time?
Yes, please.
Yeah, it says, corner tenants within strip shopping centers may have a wall sign on the end of the building in addition to the wall sign on the front of the building.
Isn't that what?
To further complicate this, I went to a ribbon cutting Saturday for Honest.
Friday.
Was it Friday? The Honest
Automotive
Mechanic. Honest Automotive. They had renovated a piece of property. It was a great project. He had a sign facing Highway 9, but he also had a sign over the bay doors, which was a wall sign. And I thought I didn't find it offensive. I thought it was a reasonable application of signage. So, but apparently that wouldn't be allowed under this interpretation?
Yes, it would.
It would?
It's totally different. It's 1,200 feet.
This deals with some piece of property that
It
is
says
over.
one sign per individual establishment, and so is there something else that allows more than one sign per individual
with over
establishment?
1,200 feet of road frontage.
So if it's a small building, you can have a sign on the side of the building, but if it's a big building, you cannot?
No, Mayor, I don't believe that's
I'm not
accurate.
understanding this. No, I'm just trying to get it, seeing the if you'll read the language for me. I mean, in this location, what you're saying here is one wall sign per individual establishment.
With
but
over
you're saying,
1,200 feet of road frontage.
But what if you have less than 1,200 feet of road frontage?
You cannot apply this code to your piece of property.
Okay. So if you have more than 1,200 feet of road frontage, you get
the break
one
and the extra
sign. If you have less than 1,200, you get multiple signs?
No, you get a smaller
Well, in the
sign.
case I'm talking about, there's more than one sign. There's a sign on the side and the front.
Divided with the monument. It gets divided with the monument sign.
I guess I'm not very good at reading charts. I usually read sentences and not charts.
This is the current sign code dealing with wall signs. It breaks it down in the first column in zoning districts.
Yes.
The second column is the maximum size area.
Maximum size of sign.
The total sign area and footage, the number of signs allowed, and then we have approved sign colors. The proposed text amendment that before you this evening is drafted very similar to this section of the code, where if we have a business establishment within a planned zone center of C1, C3, OCMS, or I1, they would get 128 square feet, allowed 1 square footage, 1 per wall, compatible to the building. The text amendment before you this evening added, if you have 1,200 foot of frontage or more, you would get the additional wall sign on that establishment. Maintained the maximum, and what we've been discussing is how do we deal with the 1 per wall? And that's been the area that's been is hard to comprehend to how we are controlling it.
Question, Mr. Townsend. Why did you take row number 2 and not row number 4?
I tried to be one that would establish, I believe I did take row number 4.
Okay.
That's what that's the one I started with.
Well, no, you read the one that says planned center, but it's really not within a planned center, isn't it? It's basically the same anyway, doesn't it?
Right.
All right, so we're going to add another block to this chart,
That is the,
22A.
if passed, yes, sir.
And can you show me what that chart will look like with those blocks added?
Page 3 in your book.
Mine's been wonderfully scribbled on from this afternoon's conversation.
All right, so if you have more than 1,200 square feet of road frontage, and you might have two establishments that both would have 128 square foot signs?
Yes.
Where does it mention monument signs on that block? Well, I'm glad someone can understand it. I'm simply, it would take maybe another couple of hours for me to study it. I will withdraw my comments. I'm simply saying I can't understand it, but I'm just a lawyer, and I haven't spent 2 or 3 hours. I'm disappointed that it's written in such a way that it's not easy to understand or obvious, because when things are difficult to understand, people get confused. And again, I'm confused right now, and I'm not going to take up more time from this council other than to say, having practiced law for 35 years and read contracts and drafted things that a period of time, I like things that are simple and easy to understand, and I'm sure that if I studied this for another hour or two, I might understand it. But I sympathize with our business owners and sign people who are trying to understand this sign and do not have a legal degree and do not have the assistance of the great minds of this council. All right, other questions or comments? Councilmember Price.
Well, this change that has just come up today, striking individual establishment, is a little concerning to me, because if you have a number of establishments within, as this one says, within a planned center, then that means only one of them can have a wall sign? I think it was better when it said per establishment.
That's now the proposed.
Oh, we put it back in and took out the parallel. Okay. This is the wording you would put on wall signs in Block 4, is that right?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments? Are we ready for a motion? Councilmember Eichelhardt.
I didn't have a question, I had comments, because we've gone back and forth on this numerous times, and I was confused as well on at least what could be allowed by that parallel and all that, but I think we may have resolved that. But my concern now, and it's kind of been the concern all along, is what the actual impact of this would have, because frankly, we started this out by trying to help one specific entity, which we all wanted to do. But as happens with government, that's just the way it goes when you can't do anything for one very easily.
Right.
And this highlights that, because now, we thought with the 1,200 feet that we were going to be dealing with a few properties, and that would be okay. Well, then it turns out, I didn't realize that till this last list, that at 1,200 there's actually 9 parcels. And then looking at some of those locations, they are spread around a number of places. That concerns me as much as the overall thing. So we're adding many more signs to numerous places all around. This whole thing concerns me. So definitely would not support down to the 800. But even now, with 9 extra parcels, 1,200 is a problem. And as it turns out, the one that we're actually dealing with, tried to deal with, is 2,000, right? So we're somewhere around there. So that may 2,000 feet of linear frontage, apparently, is what the Commerce Parkway property is. So I'm not sure where the 1,200 came from, but we went from maybe helping a couple of properties to at least 9, and I'm just very concerned about what this now does.
Other comments? Is this comment or motion?
Comment.
Yes.
Thank you. I know that in discussion with the legal department the other day, there was, and I'm not sure which parcels they were, maybe you recall or know otherwise, that if this were reduced to below 1,200, that yes, it would increase the number of parcels allowed to have 2 signs, but some of them currently have non-conforming signs, and it could be a trade-off that we would get to have, if they exercise the option to remove the non-conforming sign, to put in the second sign, or to put in 2 signs that would be smaller ground monument type signs. Can you tell me how many, let's say 1,000 feet and above, of those 12, we would then see the reduction of some non-conforming signs?
I don't know that I could give you that answer, Dr. Price. I mean, of the 9, probably all of them have a non-conforming sign. So I would feel comfortable that all of them would have, I think that's...
But we'll read it and amend it.
You're probably not really giving that much of an incentive to reduce something that has, a 25-foot sign that they will never take down unless, there's some financial backing to do that. I'm not sure that this code would meet that objective. I mean, there may be someone that would take advantage of it, yes, but I'm not sure what that number would be.
But you think possibly at the greater than 1,000 foot that we could potentially see 12 non-conforming signs go away?
That's the potential, yes. You could see none also.
Actually, Councilmember Price made the point that I was exactly thinking of, and it seems to me we're no worse off, and we could be better for having made lower signs and nicer looking ones that conform to what we want. I can think of Holcomb Woods Parkway, where the signage is kind of horrendous, that this is an opportunity, whether they take it or not, at least there's an avenue there to encourage it. And I'm comfortable with the 800. Having gone and looked at a lot of these, I don't know that there's going to be so many that we're going to see an impact visually, but we may actually see a reduction in the impact visually.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This started off as an attempt to try to help our cinemas get the signage that they need, and somehow it's morphed into something other than that. And I support helping our cinemas get appropriate signage. I'm struggling with this ordinance. We seem to solve one problem and create another, unfortunately. The 1,200 plus you have listed as 9 parcels. You gave us a list of 7 parcels.
I think one of them I said maybe 2 in a couple of the parcels.
Right, I see it. Item 5, you just listed 3 sites. I think the changes to the wall sign help clarify that. I don't know that we've made it crystal clear, but I think it helps quite a bit. I think I'd be okay with the 1,200, but I'm very uncomfortable with going down to the 800.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I've been saying this time and time and again. Every time we look at changing our text amendment for one special interest, we have to look at the overall picture. And I think this is what this is, how come this is morphed into what it's morphed into, is one is the impact to the whole city.
We can't do just for one special entity their own little ordinance.
Right.
So I think that's where the morph has come into it. I'm not really married to either the 1,200 or 800 square feet, linear feet. I'm not ones that like a lot of signs, so I think there's some pros and cons both ways. But again, anytime we want to change a text amendment, we have to look at the impact of the entire city and just not one little entity, and this is the reason why.
Please turn on your microphone.
Even though I'm not sure I fully understand the wall sign issue, I support the ground sign issue. I thought the purpose of this ordinance was to help our businesses, not one individual business, but help businesses in Roswell. Some council members seem to be concerned that by lowering the frontage from 1,200 to 800, we'll be helping more businesses. I think that's a positive thing to help more businesses. Our businesses are struggling today. We've got empty centers. We've got falling property taxes. I hope that this council will look upon this as not to help an individual or not to, but to help our businesses, and I hope they'll support the motion that I anticipate to amend this ordinance. Any further comments? Mr. Davidson, if you'd read the ordinance.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the City of Roswell sign ordinance to allow additional ground signage and wall signage for multi-tenant centers and commercial zoning districts with 1,200 feet of road frontage within the city limits of Roswell, Georgia. Now, therefore, pursuant to their authority, the mayor and council adopt the following ordinance. Article 22 of the City of Roswell zoning ordinance, signs, section 22.18, maximum height, maximum sizes, setback requirements, and number allowances, section 22.18C is amended as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference. In table 22.182, ground signs in non-residential zoning districts. In table 22.183, wall signs in all districts are amended as follows, text again of which is incorporated herein by reference, and if approved, this would be the second reading of the ordinance.
Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve RZ 11-01 text amendment for sign code as printed in our packet, with the exception of table 22.18 parentheses 3, box number 4, return it to what it was at the first reading, which I believe was one, well, as you had it up there, one per individual establishment wall. Was that what it said? One wall sign per individual establishment. Do we even need that last little part? Per public street frontage? Presumably it's on a street. Well, as written. End of motion.
Well, were you amending the what's the square footage per sign, just for clarification, for a monument sign? And there was a lot of discussion about that.
Well, I'd like to see it more, but my understanding from various discussions that no one wanted to see it go
so
to
it's
28.
it remained at 1,200 square feet to get an additional monument sign? 128 square feet, if you have more than 1,200 square feet of 1,200 linear feet of frontage, you get an additional 128-foot monument sign.
You're confusing the monuments and the walls. The monuments, it would be 800 feet of road frontage, 2 signs, provided all signs, ground signs are conforming. And then taking it separately, or we can divide the motion if you'd like.
No, it's fine. I just was trying to get a clarification. There's been a lot discussed.
Okay, and then the wall signs would simply be, as is the max in any of our codes, 128 square feet per wall per sign. with that extra number of signs allowed, one per individual establishment per public street frontage, which is just new language. I don't think we find that anywhere else. So it's superfluous, isn't it? Can we just get rid of it?
That was from the legal department. They felt it was important to identify the public street frontage.
Yeah, but that was when we were talking about parallel and everything.
Right.
Can we just get rid of it? Sure.
Mr. Davidson, what is your answer?
It's up to this council if they want to get rid of it. That's fine.
No, wait, when you say get rid of it, would it say one wall sign per individual establishment? Is that how you would change it, or just it would eliminate it altogether? There'd be no. You'd go back to the standard rules for wall signs.
Then you're going to limit the corner areas. You could have one for each road frontage now. If you go to what you just said, it would be just one sign total.
Okay, per.
So right now, if we say one wall sign per individual establishment, that would mean actually one wall sign per road frontage?
No, total. Yeah, no, it needs to say
One
that,
wall
right.
sign per establishment, so if you happen to be on a corner, you could still only have one wall sign.
Right. Then it needs
Glad
to be,
you all
it needs to be
understand
back
it.
in then.
I don't. All right.
I think it needs to be there.
If you will repeat your motion, I apologize for confusing things. It's to improve the second reading with, if you'll repeat your amendments.
There really weren't any amendments. It's as written in the book,
Just approve as read.
with the exception of,
Okay.
under Table 2218.3, Box 4, one wall sign per individual establishment per, what was it? Okay, public street frontage.
So if you had if the individual establishment had fronted on two streets, there'd be two wall signs.
Correct.
I understand that.
On the other
Thank you for
hand,
that
there's a
clarification.
situation that I think we're all aware of where it's really one street, although it turns into 90 degrees by curvature. So is that two street frontages or one?
It'd be one street frontage. It's one street. So as I understand it, the motion is to approve the ordinance as read with the change in the one block to say one wall sign per individual establishment per street frontage. Is that accurate?
So far, yes, but as we're noodling here, does that in effect sort of negate what's elsewhere with corners?
If it's a corner and it fronts on two streets, as I understand it, you'd get a wall sign on each street.
Yes.
If you happen to be isolated a block, you could potentially get four wall signs if you were four streets.
Yes.
I'm not sure where that exists, but that's theoretically
But if
possible.
your street isn't square and doesn't have a different name, but it's effectively...
If you were in the middle of a roundabout, you'd only get one wall sign. Of course, if your building was round, it might circle all the way around the building.
That completes my motion.
All right. We have a motion to, let me restate this. We have a motion to read the ordinance as read with the change in the block to say one wall sign per individual establishment per public street frontage. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Do we have a second? Councilmember Diamond, is that a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. This time I'm going to open it up for comments from the floor, and then we'll return for discussion by council. Any comments from the floor? I see you understand it very well. Discussion by council. Councilmember Nguyen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Price, I think I heard you say that you're not really happy with the 800 linear feet. What would you be happy with? The 1,200 as written? I'm just trying to get a feel of what your comfort
Well,
level is on this.
not knowing, not being able to predict, who might take advantage of the opportunity to trade a non-conforming sign for two smaller signs. I'm hopeful that would be an incentive to do that. But if not, it really is moot. I mean, if they don't do it, they don't do anything. There's no change. But if they do it, I think it's an advantage. But Mr. Townsend wasn't sure how many between the 800 and 1,000 this would apply to, and are we just adding more signs? I'm just a little concerned about that.
Councilmember DiPolito.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to propose an amendment to increase the road frontage to 1,200 linear feet.
That's for the monument signs.
For the monument signs.
We have a motion to amend to require 1,200 feet of linear footage for an additional monument sign. Is there a second? Second for discussion by Councilmember Wynn. All right, we're in discussion now. Any other amendments? Councilmember Eichelhardt. Further discussion? We'll vote on the 1,200 square foot amendment first. This would be amending the
linear feet.
Linear feet, the 1,200, requiring 1,200 linear feet to get a second monument sign. Is there further? Is all in favor of the motion? Raise their hands. That's DiPolito, Wynn, and Eichelhardt. All opposed? That would be 2 opposed. That amendment passes. So now, let's vote on the second amendment, of the first amendment. The amendment to change this box to say that you've got that was one wall sign per individual. That's her motion. That would be, we'd be voting on the motion with the amendment to go to 1,200, require 1,200 square feet. So the motion right now, as amended, it would be to pass the ordinance as read with 2 changes. One, it would be to change the 800 feet to 1,200 feet, and the second change, it would be to allow a wall sign for each individual establishment, for each public street front, for each street that it fronted on.
May I?
Not to exceed 128 square feet. Yes.
So we've gone back to last month's then? We've gone back to 1,200?
That was passed 3-2.
May I offer another amendment?
Sure.
In lieu of the 1,200 or the 800, how about 1,000?
Do we have any takers for 1,000? We have a motion for 1,000. Do we have a second? We have a second. Discussion on the 1,000. All in favor of the yes to Mr. Councilmember DiPolito.
Since we're discussing,
feel like an auctioneer here. Discussion on the 1,000 as opposed to 800.
I would like to have a little bit of information on the 3 parcels that we would be adding by dropping it down to 1,000. I'm not sure I understand
That one's
the Scott Road in East Crossville. I think I understand the Mansell Road, Kroger. I believe that's right along Mansell Road.
The 3 parcels, one on Scott Road, the 1,000 to 1,200 applies actually only on the back side of the Kroger Shopping Center, and that Scott Road location. The Mansell Road location is the Kroger Shopping Center, like where the Blockbuster, in that location, that's between 1,000, as well as that same shopping center, the frontage they have on Mansell is like between 1,000 and 1,200.
So it would only apply to that frontage along Mansell, is that correct?
No, both.
So it's Crossville and...
Right.
That's 1,000 feet on Crossville?
Yeah.
Okay.
Councilmember Diamond.
I'm sorry, East Crossville is...
Yes.
East Crossville is what?
That Kroger Shopping Center.
Oh, okay, so both of those are the Kroger shopping.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Diamond.
I'm just looking at the list, and I don't know if the 800 is totally ship has sailed or if there's any shot. I've kind of lost track here, but
That ship has sailed. We're not talking 800, we're talking 1,000. We had a motion. They could come back. So we're not going to revisit 800. We're talking about 1,000.
you're sure? Because I'm looking at the list, and I would encourage everybody to look at that list.
We have to vote on the motion.
Well, I guess my general comment would be we want to encourage people to come in and do multi-use projects with large parcels, and I think we need to make it as user-friendly and as habitable as we can. And I'm disappointed that there are 5 properties and one has 4 locations that we could get rid of non-conforming signs, that we don't have that opportunity under this plan. But if 1,000 is all we can get, I will go with that.
Further discussion. Councilmember Eichelhardt.
I don't think we're going to know the answer to this, but of those who are in this property list, do we know? We already know they don't, whether they have non-conforming signs or not. So what could actually be happening is we are allowing someone who doesn't have any signs or may only have one to get an extra sign, correct? Because we don't know whether it's non-conforming or not. Right. So we could be adding, in fact, that Kroger Shopping Center sounds like we'd have 2 or 3 new signs because there's that new extra space there. So I think we're really going off on a wrong avenue and saying this is suddenly going to reduce non-conforming signs. And plus, this changes the height from what used to be 12 to 15. So it's not the great advantage, I think, in the end for what we're talking about.
Further discussion.
Please turn on your microphone. Thank you.
At this time, I'm asking the council to vote on an amendment to allow an extra monument sign provided your linear frontage exceeds 1,200 feet. 1,000 feet. It exceeds 1,000 feet. We have a motion and a second. All in favor of the motion? This is 1,000 feet. That's Diamond, DiPolito, Wynn, and Price. All opposed? Eichelhardt is opposed. That amendment passes. Yes. You want to make another amendment?
I have another amendment.
Okay.
This amendment refers to the height, because in looking through the zoning book, really our maximum height everywhere else is 12 feet. The only reason we actually made this 15 was because we were trying at that time to incorporate anybody who had changeable copy for movie theaters. Since apparently that is not an issue anymore, is there any will just to leave that at 12 feet?
You can make a motion and find out. If that's your will, we'll find out. If you have the council support.
It's no fun going down in flames. All right, I move to.
Not your first crash.
I know. I just fixed the plane. Okay, let's. I move to on table 2218-2, column 1, reduce it to 12 feet.
Second. We have a motion and a second to reduce the height of the sign to 12 feet. Is that from ground or is that from the
ground?
From the ground to the top of the sign, 12 feet.
It's not reducing it. It's in this particular
It's amending the ordinance as read to return it to 12 feet.
Correct, 12, which is standard.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That is Dippolito, Wynn, Eigelhart, and Price. All opposed. Diamond is opposed. Diamond goes down in flames. All right.
How's it feel?
All right. Any other motions other than we're not going to revisit old motions that were made already? All right. As I understand it, the motion is to approve the second reading with these changes. The monument sign height is now limited to 12 feet. The linear frontage for the extra monument sign is now, you have to have a minimum of 1,000 linear feet. And the individual wall sign establishments is one wall sign per individual establishment per public street frontage. Any questions?
I hate to throw a wrench in this. Councilmember Price, did you want to keep the separation of 400 feet since we went down to 1,000? Do you want to do 500 feet?
Another amendment, separation of 500 feet.
So that would the monument signs have to be at a minimum of 500 feet apart? Is that a motion?
Yes.
We have a motion that the wall signs have to be at least 500 feet apart. Is there a second? Second by Wynn. Councilmember Dippolito.
Mayor, you said wall signs.
Not one, monument signs. Monument signs have to be at least 500 feet apart. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion. All in favor of that motion, raise their hands. That passes unanimously. We're on a roll. All right. So it would be, here is the motion as I understand it. It's to approve the second reading with an additional monument sign if you have 1,000 linear feet. The monument signs have to be 500 feet apart. You get one wall sign per establishment per road frontage, and the ground signs can be no higher than 12 feet. Any questions? All in favor of that motion, raise their hands. That's Price, Wynn, Dippolito, and Diamond. In favor, opposed, Eigelhart. Passes 5-1. And we have once again simplified 4-1, and we have made our ordinance even simpler. If you'll call the next agenda item, please.
The next item, RZ 11-04, text amendment to allow sidewalk, sandwich, or curb-type signs in the C2 zoning district. This is the second reading. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this is our wonderful sign code again. We're dealing with the sandwich, ground signs, and non-residential zoning districts. We allow currently for sandwich signs. They are 3 feet 6 inches tall, can be a maximum of 6 square feet. The code currently allows them in the C1 zoning district. We're adding the C2 zoning district. We have the current code regulation stipulates that they cannot be placed on the sidewalk. It's for a width of 36 inches, so there should be clear passage on the sidewalk. The only amendment that we are adding relates to allowing them in the C2 zoning district. We currently allow them in the historic area in C1.
Would you please read the ordinance?
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the City of Roswell zoning ordinance regarding Chapter 22 sign code dealing with sidewalk, sandwich, or curb-type signs in the C2 zoning district. Now, therefore, pursuant to their authority, the mayor and city council adopt the following amendment to the zoning ordinance. The City of Roswell is hereby amending Article 22 of the City of Roswell zoning ordinance, Chapter 22.17, signs allowed in specific zoning districts, wording to allow for a sidewalk, sandwich, or curb-type sign in the C2 zoning district by creating said section 22.17 I-5 to read as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference and the City of Roswell hereby amends Article 22 of the City of Roswell zoning ordinance, Table 18.2, ground signs in non-residential districts as follows, text of which is incorporated herein by reference. If approved, this would be the second reading.
We'll entertain comments before we entertain a motion. I'm concerned about allowing sandwich signs in the public right-of-way. Right now, you cannot put a political sign in the public right-of-way. I'm not aware of any other signs that you can put in the public right-of-way. Once we start allowing folks to use the public right-of-way, it's public property for a private use. I know we allow sidewalk cafes on the street in the historic district under a license. If we're going to start allowing other uses in the public right-of-way, we need to consider licensing them and not just carte blanche. You can put sandwich signs on public property. Councilmember Price.
We're not starting that because we already do it. All we're doing is adding one small C2 entity to be the same as what we're already doing. I mean, if we want to take that up as a separate issue, we could, but we would. This would be in conformity with what we're already doing, just adding a location.
I recognize it's in conformity with what we have approved in the past, but I think it's a mistake. Councilmember DiPolito.
Mr. Mayor, I'm looking at the ordinance, and it says minimum setback from the right-of-way line. So I assume that means that they're not allowed in the right-of-way. They have to be set back from the right-of-way line. Is that correct?
All right, so when we refer to the sidewalk, are we talking about sidewalks only on private property, if it happens to be on private property? If that's the case, I agree.
In the chart, there's a box in the chart. It says minimum setback from right-of-way line. It doesn't mention sidewalk.
There was a clause in here that says must be situated like clear passage for minimum accessible. So that would be talking about private shopping centers that have sidewalks.
I assume so, or sidewalks that are not within the right-of-way.
I appreciate your clarifying it. That's a good solution to the issue that I had. Thank you for squaring me up. I'm happy with it now that it's not allowed in the public right-of-way. You found something Mr. Davidson didn't find, and I'm proud of it.
My attorney upbringing.
All right, so we've had a first reading. Is there a motion?
Move to approve RZ 11-04, text amendment for sidewalk sandwich curb type signs in C2.
There's a motion to approve the second reading by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The next item is RZ 11-05, text amendment for active recreational facilities in residential zoning districts. This is the first reading. Mr. Townsend.
This is a clarification of a language that's in Chapter 10 of our current ordinance dealing with active recreational facilities as a principal use. This is just dealing with making sure that this is a requirement for the particular buffers for these types of uses in all of the residential zoning categories. Staff would recommend approval at first reading.
And what is that buffer?
A 50-foot setback from any property line, side and rear, and a minimum 25-foot wide natural buffer, which is the way the current language is written.
Would that apply to daycare centers?
No.
No.
This isn't a residential, a subdivision that has a tennis complex.
Okay. Is this, would you say this was initiation?
No, first reading.
If you'd read the ordinance, please.
Thank you. This is an ordinance to amend the City of Roswell zoning ordinance regarding the allowance of principal use of active recreational facilities in all residential zoning districts within the city limits of Roswell. Now therefore, pursuant to their authority, the mayor and city council adopt the following ordinance, text of which is incorporated herein by reference. They have approved this to be the first reading.
Do we have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Price of the first reading. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise your hands. Passes unanimously.
The next item is the initiation of proposed text amendment addressing the location of used automobile sales establishments. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this text initiation would require that used automobile establishments have a separate lot of record or parcel for them to be allowed to go through the conditional use process for council review and approval. Staff would recommend the initiation. This was reviewed at committee at the 25th of May meeting and recommended to be brought forward for initiation.
So as I understand it, if there's a shopping center and you are a tenant in that shopping center, that would not create a separate lot of record.
Correct.
So it would eliminate car dealerships and shopping centers. You'd have to have a separate parcel that was dedicated or for the car dealership.
The car dealership or other automotive uses that are permitted. Yes.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move to initiate this text amendment.
Motion by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember DeFilippo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question. The 3/4 acre, is that consistent? Actually, I withdraw my question. I figured it out. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The next item is initiation of proposed text amendment to allow for compact parking spaces in the Roswell zoning ordinance. Mr. Townsend.
Yes, this is a proposed text amendment which would allow for a minimum of parking spaces, compact parking spaces, to be 8.5 feet in width and 16 feet in length, as long as the total number of compact spaces does not exceed 15% of the total number of required spaces. This provides a third option from the two sizes that we currently have in the code of a 9 by 20 or a 10 by 18 parking space size.
Do we have a motion?
I'd like to propose an amendment.
Yes.
I guess.
Well, this is an initiation, so you can initiate something a little bit different.
All right. Just wanted to add in the ordinance as presented. Just add at the end of that's highlighted in bold and underlined. Add and identified as compact. And we could certainly talk about that in the future.
That would be subject to, in my situation on my parcel of property, I have a gravel parking lot. So my concern was I'd like to have some compact parking places, but
we'll give you
do I have to put up more signs?
We'll give you more signs.
Eichelhart feels about signs.
But you don't know where they're going to park.
When you have a gravel parking lot, you really don't know where they're going to park.
So it's not an issue, is it?
Well, I mean, how do you identify them in a gravel parking lot?
You don't.
So you don't get compact parking places unless you put up signs? But if I put up signs, I can get some compact spaces?
You just
No, there are no lines on the gravel.
You just cram them in.
Well, when you're calculating the number of spaces that fit on your property,
you would provide a plan that would identify where compact parking spaces, and we would probably make a determination as to how they would be identified.
Okay.
Whether you were to
be determined by staff.
Right. And we would give you if the plan accurately shows the number of spaces, making sure you did not exceed the 15% of the required number, then we would be able to identify them in particular locations.
I understand. I appreciate that. Councilmember Price.
And it wouldn't necessarily have to be a sign. It could be on the pavement. Just something so that you know that don't try to cram your Lincoln Continental into.
It could be a speed bump. It could be a tire bump in front of it that could be painted, identified as compact space, or something that would clearly show that that was the intent.
Just so big cars don't try to wiggle in.
Right.
No fat cars.
Cars on a
Councilmember
diet.
Wynn.
Cars on a diet. Mr. Townsend, this is voluntary. I mean, we're not telling people they have to have compact
No.
parking places. This is if someone wants to do it.
Right.
We're just limiting to the 15% of the total parking area, parking spaces required.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Diamond.
Yes, that was my point, was what is the purpose of this? Is it to create compact parking in the city, or is it to allow our businesses to have the flexibility of adding spaces by using compact?
Yes.
In which case...
As a business owner, I would like that flexibility. I know my car, my secretary's car, my paralegal's car, they're all compact cars.
Right, but
And I can get more parking on my space and allow more folks to arrive after 5 that way.
I guess my point is I don't really care who parks in what space. It's more of a calculation than it is
Right.
an enforcement thing.
Well, if adopted and initiated, and then we will get into how do we enforce it if there is an issue with it.
Hopefully we won't get there.
Councilmember DiPolito.
I had a question regarding the standard size of our parking space. We originally started this conversation with discussing that the typical standard space is 9 by 18, and that's, in my experience, I've seen virtually all spaces are 9 by 18 except for when they're compact. So Roswell's a little unusual, and there's a few other municipalities, but most places are 9 by 18. Maybe we want to explore, I realize this is an initiation, but moving toward a 9 by 18 rather than a 9 by 20, because that'll save impervious area. So that's a suggestion.
Wish to make an amendment, or you just...
It's an initiation, so if we can look into that, but I believe most places have 9 by 18 rather than 9 by 20.
Do we have a motion and a second? Another comment, Councilmember Eichelhardt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the numerous parking decks and other parking I've seen downtown in Atlanta, they do have compact listed on there, and I haven't measured them, but I'm guessing it's even smaller than 9 by 18 based on what you just said. And again, we always get in trouble trying to do one thing, but we were really trying to allow parking for those who can no longer be on Canton Street to now be in the parking lot next to Pastis. So I'm afraid if that's the goal, we're now limiting people who could have parked on the street to just a compact vehicle that they have to be traveling in. So I'd be careful on that aspect, because we're trying to allow them to have smaller spaces within that one parking lot, so that now you'd have more spaces than people would have for retail only. That's where all this started, right?
Right.
So if we then put the compact on top of that, then you can only have that intention of going to those retail stores if you have a compact car as well. So that's my only concern. But I think we're taking it one step too far here.
Okay.
So I think it's a separate discussion whether or not we have additional spaces that then become compact of whatever size that is. I don't know what that size is. But following what you just said, if your standard is actually 9 by 18, then I have a problem putting the compact on it at this point.
Well, there are a lot of different reasons to do this, but I'm supporting this because it allows for more green space in the historic district. It allows for less impervious surface in the historic district. It addresses a parking problem in the historic district, and as Councilmember Diamond says, it allows more flexibility to the individual property owners to accommodate what he expects his traffic to be. So for all of those reasons, I support this. Further comment, additional discussion. We have a motion and a second. Is there a second? Let's go back, and we've had a lot of discussion. If you would repeat the motion, Councilmember Price. This is to initiate the first reading, and you mentioned a change.
Initiate the first reading of the text amendment for compact parking spaces, and one suggestion to add, identify those such spaces as compact, and there was a suggestion by Councilman DiPolito to change the length to 18 feet. So would we just call those recommendations at this point, or?
If you have something specific in mind, you can say it, or you can just say initiate a text amendment to allow compact parking spaces, and we'll work out the details later. I just need to know what your motion is.
Motion is to initiate the text amendment and staff to take under consideration those comments made.
We have a motion to initiate a text amendment to allow for compact parking spaces, the details to be worked out later. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does anyone in the audience wish to have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember Eichelhardt.
I'm not sure it's worth it at this point, but I support the ordinance and making that change, but I think we should have much further discussion as to what's compact and what's just smaller size, all that kind of stuff. So.
Any further discussion before we entertain a vote? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll call upon Councilmember Rich DiPolito, liaison to our Transportation Department.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item on the transportation agenda is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with CurbTech, Inc. for the construction of the MARTA offset sidewalks batch number 1 project in the amount of $133,000, $302.50. Mr. Asenbrad.
Thank you, Councilman DiPolito. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, good evening. Tonight, we'd like to bring your attention to a couple exciting MARTA offset projects and get these things under construction. The first project, as Councilman DiPolito mentioned, was the what we call our Batch 1 sidewalks. We have several batches in the hopper, and this is the first set that's actually gone through design and permitting, the procurement process, and is now ready to go to construction. We sent out an advertisement. We received 12 bids. CurbTech was the lowest responsible bidder at $133,302.50. I put up a graphic here which shows you some of the things that we have going on in the city of Roswell, but it really is tempted to draw your attention to the location of these 4 sidewalk projects. Specifically, they are the north side of Hembry Road, west of State Route 9, the north side of Mansell Place, east of State Route 9, the north side of Howes Way, east of Howes Road, and alongside the south side of Mansell Road from just west of Roswell Commons Drive, extending 1,500 feet to the east, for a total of 3,400 linear feet of 5-foot sidewalk.
If you'll go ahead and present the other MARTA offset project while you're up there, I'd like to get them both.
Yes, sir.
Before council, I know we've got one motion, but while you're presenting, they're both part of the MARTA offset list, so if you'll present that item too. And I'm going to ask for public comments on both projects.
See. Pardon me just for a second. Okay. The second project, Mr. Mayor, is the what we're calling the Finish the Connection project. It is another MARTA offset project designed to help pedestrians get to and from the various MARTA stops, and this one is going generally in the vicinity of Holcomb Bridge as it crosses over Georgia 400. We followed our procurement processes, and we sent out an advertisement which we received 8 bids. The lowest responsible bidder was a company called Precision 2000 with a bid of 336,170 feet.
The Finish the Connection is a multimodal safety improvement project that consists of pedestrian improvements along Holcomb Bridge Road as it approaches Georgia 400. The project will add sidewalks, crosswalks, pedestrian signals to improve safety and facilitate pedestrian crossing across the ramps of the Georgia 400. The project will relocate the eastbound MARTA bus stop to between Old Dogwood Road and the State Route 400 southbound ramp. The project will also reconstruct the median to extend the eastbound left turn lane for northbound State Route 400 traffic. The project will re-landscape the median between Dogwood Road and State Route 400 and add new trees between Old Dogwood Road and State Route 400.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions? Do we have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, would you like this, since it's two separate items, would you like two separate motions?
Yes, sir.
I move to approve that the mayor and city administrator sign a contract with CurbTech Inc. for the construction of the MARTA Offset Sidewalks Batch Number 1 project in the amount of $133,302,000.50.
We have a motion by Councilmember DiPolito to approve the sidewalks. Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember Eigelhart. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments about this sidewalk projects for $133,000? Yes, sir. Come forward, please. If you'll give us your name and address.
Frank Berna, 435 Waverly Hall Drive. Is a question. Is this replacing existing sidewalk or is this new sidewalk?
Jason Breck.
This is new sidewalk.
These are typically we're connecting existing sidewalks where there are gaps.
That's correct.
That's why we call it
filling.
Finish the Connection. Any other questions about the sidewalk project? Any further discussion by council? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On that note, I just wanted to point out that on Mansell Road, there's a gentleman who has an electric wheelchair who I have seen more than once riding down on Mansell Road itself, which is extremely dangerous. So I'm really glad to see that in process.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the sidewalk projects, raise their hand. Passes unanimously.
I move to approve for the mayor and city administrator to sign a contract with Precision 2000 for the construction of the MARTA Offset Finish the Connection project in the amount of $336,170. And along these lines, this is another one of those projects where I think we have all witnessed safety situations. We've seen people walking at night across the bridge. We've seen mothers with carriages and strollers going across the bridge, and we're fortunate more people haven't been injured so far. So this is a great project, and I think it'll really add a lot to the safety.
Motion by Councilmember DiPolito to approve the pedestrian improvements in the Holcomb Bridge over 400 area. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. For the record, Councilman Orleans is absent tonight with an excuse. Next agenda item, please, Mr. DiPolito.
The next item is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a supplemental project framework agreement with the Georgia Department of Transportation on SR 140 ATMS and SR 92 ATMS projects, and approval of budget amendment to establish the grant account in the amount of $574,000. Mr. Eisenberg.
Thank you, Councilman DiPolito. This project is an action to accept some state road and tollway authority funds, which will supplement the existing project framework agreement that we have with Georgia Department of Transportation for our advanced traffic management systems, basically going the east-west corridor of our city, which is essentially State Route 400 and then State Route 92. I have a graphic here that I can show you. Essentially what we're doing is supplementing what we already have and filling in some funding gaps. One of the aspects of this project is the traffic monitoring devices. We were mostly funded. This is
Those are cameras, right?
Yes, sir.
Traffic monitoring devices.
Correct.
For layperson. They're cameras in which we observe traffic flow and try to make adjustments for traffic flow.
Yes, sir. And this is just a graphic showing you State Route 92 and State Route 140, which is the major east-west corridor across the city. We were mostly funded for the ATMS project, which is the little blue cameras here, and we were short one camera. So that's what this little red camera is. The other part of this graphic is the adaptive control system, which is a very sophisticated computer which will not only detect the cars but will adjust itself as the capacity volume goes up and down. So we were mostly funded west of Georgia 400, as you can see here in these little blue icons, but we had a large gap in our funding to continue it all the way basically to the Gwinnett County line. This funding will allow us to get those adaptive control systems now along the entire corridor. So that's basically the project in a nutshell, is filling in this funding gap, and we were fortunate to receive favorable consideration from CERTA for this.
What is the overall cost of the projects? I know we're approving $574,000 tonight. Is that the overall cost, or is that a piece of it?
No, sir, that's just a piece of it.
So between the cameras and the automatic, I'm trying to get the big picture. I'm looking for how much we think that the whole project's going to cost. And
Mohammed Raff is our city traffic engineer.
What's the time frame for this work to go in?
Good evening. This is Mohammed Rauf, the city traffic engineer. The construction cost for the Holcomb Bridge Road part of the project was $750,000. 20%.
When we say, is this the Highway 92, Holcomb Bridge?
This is just the Holcomb Bridge part of the project. Is construction cost $750,000. $600,000 of that is the federal money. $150,000 is the city 20% match.
All right. Now, but does this include? Go ahead.
The other part of the project is Highway 92. The total construction funds for that is $500,000. $400,000 is the federal funding, and $100,000 is the city 20% match.
So that's $1,250,000.
Yes, and
for the entire corridor.
Yes, and on top of that, the design fee is all paid by the city, and it's already funded in the budgets.
And what is the time frame that we expect this project to take?
We are hoping for June 2013 letting, and about for the construction, and it takes about a year or so to design. We are actually already in design, and June 2013 we could start the construction with a completion time of about 12 to 18 months.
Thank you, sir. Does the council have any other questions? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is part of an overall system that I know the residents of Roswell are very anxious to see get in place. Signal timing is an issue that we've struggled with for a lot of years, and we try to keep up with it, but it's just extremely difficult without having an automated system. Now this, just to clarify, the entire system will take us all the way from our western boundary to our eastern boundary.
Yes,
is that
sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
And then also and that's on Holcomb Bridge Road in 92.
Yes, sir.
And then on State Route 9 all the way from Sandy Springs to Alpharetta.
Yes, sir.
So when all of these are complete, then we'll have all of those systems covered, and hopefully that signalization will be much more streamlined and much more efficient.
Yes, sir.
Do we have a completion date for State Route 9 as well?
It's under construction. Mohammed can give you a quick update.
Yeah, it's a joint project with City of Sandy Springs and City of Alpharetta, and Sandy Springs is the project sponsor, and they are actually in the advertisement phase to basically hire a contractor to start construction in the next 2 to 3 months, and that project has a completion time of 16 months. So that'll start in the next 2 to 3 months. And that is, Highway 9 is the project that basically gets us the traffic control center as well at the Hembry facility, where we'll have the monitoring and controlling capability to all those traffic signals on Highway 9.
Great. So spring of 2013, Highway 9 should be complete, roughly?
Yes.
And then what about 92 and Holcomb Bridge as a whole package? When do we expect all of that to be done?
That's when June or mid of 2013 is when we start construction on Holcomb Bridge and 92. Because we are designing that project as we speak.
And that's another 16 months after
About
that?
12 to 18 months, we normally say.
Okay, so spring of 2014. So we're a few
Yes.
years out, and
Yes.
we'll have this all taken care of. All right. Thank you very much.
Do we have a motion?
I believe I already made a motion.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Yes, sir. Come forward. I'll get you next. This gentleman over here, I recognize.
I didn't see you.
Knesset. My question is basically at the end of the road there, is it interconnected with another system? Because what good does it do if this is running perfectly and then we get at the end and there is a stop?
Ms. Eisenbrack, can you address that?
Is there a connection on the top there?
There is currently no connection with Cobb County.
So basically we're building a white elephant here that stops at the other end.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Come forward.
Frank Berna, 435 Waverly Hall Drive. What kind of a gain are we going to get out of this? I mean, it sounds on paper like it should work, but what are we expecting traffic to be reduced by? 2
Good
minutes,
question.
8 minutes, 2 hours?
Do we have? It won't be 2 hours. Mr. Eisenbrack.
There are going to be percentages of gains in different areas. Mohammed, if you want to simplify some of those.
Yeah, I wouldn't really have a specific percentage. It's not a magic bullet that's going to resolve all the traffic congestion problems. Those are mainly the capacity issues. So we can't add, 2 or 4 more lanes along Holcomb Bridge or Highway 92. But what we do with these computerized signal timings projects is we basically get the best efficiency out of our existing infrastructure. What these computerized traffic signal programs do, it's like a live person sitting on this traffic signal cabinet optimizing the timing at every minute of it, basically. So we won't have predetermined timing plans. We will have constantly updated real-time traffic plans, so it will be the most efficient traffic signal timings that you could ever have. So
do we have any estimate of how much the traffic congestion delays might, or your commute time, if you were going from one end to the other, might change? Any estimate?
We basically hear about 20 to 30% improvement in the travel time. That's how we determine the efficiency
So if
of
it takes you 15 minutes, you would have a 20% improvement over that if you were driving from Cobb to Gwinnett.
I can tell you 20 to 30% savings in the travel time.
If you could cut the average commute time for every citizen down 20 to 30%, you'll be a hero.
Okay, I hope to achieve that.
You'll be a hero.
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir, Councilman DiPolito.
I think we had a great comment from Herb about connecting to Cobb County and also to Gwinnett. And we've been successful in working with Sandy Springs and Alpharetta. So I'd like for us to reach out to Gwinnett and to
We certainly
Cobb
can.
and see what their intentions are, let them know we're doing this, and perhaps they can line up some funding for their part as well.
The other theory was to put up a gate, which a lot of citizens have asked for too, but maybe this is second best to a gate.
Well, and I would like to add maybe one comment to that is that this Georgia Department of Transportation, as you well know, is doing what they call this Regional Traffic Operations Plan, where they're taking the major corridors throughout metropolitan Atlanta and looking to improve efficiency on all of those corridors. So we do what we can within our jurisdiction to improve the traffic flow, but at some point Georgia DOT overlaps all of our efforts and is well into coordinating all these things. So it's probably created a bad impression to say that we're not coordinated. We are not necessarily coordinated with Cobb County, but it's absolutely GDOT's mission, especially within their districts, to make sure that that absolutely does happen. And I don't have all the information, but I would certainly be happy to scour that with the GDOT and find out what Cobb and Gwinnett are doing and report back to the council on how these are all tying in together.
Anyone else in the audience have any questions? Further discussion by council? Councilmember Price.
I just want to applaud this. This is something that has been a bee in my bonnet for a long time. Can you just tell us the distance from the far west to the far east?
In miles?
Yeah.
Ooh. 10 miles? 10 miles?
So it's a significant difference.
It is.
Yes. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. Mr. DiPolito, I believe we have one more item that was added to the agenda.
Yes, we have an added item that was a result of our joint meeting with the North Fulton CID on Friday, which went extremely well. And I'm pleased to report that we're bringing this item forward, which is the approval for the mayor and or city administrator to sign a project agreement with the North Fulton Community Improvement District for the Sun Valley Connector project traffic analysis. Mr. Asenbach.
Thank you, Councilman DiPolito. As you mentioned, we did have a successful meeting on Friday where we had the board of directors of the North Fulton Community Improvement District in the same room with the mayor and the city council discussing possible partnership agreements. This is a graphic taking out of that meeting that we had, and just to orient you, this is State Route 9, and just off this map down here at the bottom is well, I can zoom. Let's see.
Show where Super Target is. That's a landmark which we all know. No, the Super Walmart.
Sure. This is the Walmart Super Center or whatever it is, right here off of Mansell Road. And so the idea is that we have an area here, State Route 9, Mansell, in this quadrant of the center of the city that is underserved by traffic, a road network. And so what we're looking at doing is this is Warsaw Road, and then Sun Valley, which are currently dead-end roads, Mansell Place, which is a dead-end road, and Old Ellis is a dead-end road. And we believe that a grid network of some type in this area will be of a significant improvement to the city. We're thinking about travel lanes, we're thinking about sidewalks, bicycle multimodal use, economic development, large-scale economic development. And what we're trying to do is look for the best, the most efficient way to connect these roads. And what we need is a traffic study to help us determine, does the road network need to go mostly north and south with some stubs east and west, or is it mostly an east-west connection with stubs north and south? Those sorts of things will guide our efforts in aligning this. So what we've done is we've worked with their staff, our on-call consultants, their on-call consultants, and said, look, what would it cost for us to do a traffic study? We've looked at the scope, and we've identified that the scope we need will be $56,000, and we would like to propose that we split the cost of this, because the city of Roswell will benefit from this, as well as the economic development aspects for the North Fulton CID in their expansion efforts. So it just so happens that tonight, if you agree to pass this, they have a North Fulton CID Board of Directors meetings tomorrow morning at 7:30 in the morning, and I would like to be able to tell them that we passed our half so that they would be inclined to pass their half. If so, we will get the consultant turned on right away, and we believe that in 3 to 4 months we'll have the results of this study, and that will allow us to begin our design efforts on the first phase of this road project.
Does the council have any questions? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Asenbrack, one of the important aspects of this improvement is that it'll take a lot of pressure off of the Mansell Road and Highway 9 intersection.
Yes, sir.
And that'll be somewhat alleviated by Mohammed's project for the ATMS.
Correct.
But this will also pull a lot of cars that are headed northbound on 9 off of Mansell.
Yes, sir.
So that is one intersection that will be studied, as well as some others in the immediate area.
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us how this will impact traffic in the general area?
Yes, sir. I mean, you're exactly correct. What we have is State Route 9 going largely north and south through our city. State Route 140, which is Holcomb Bridge Road, actually goes north at the 9 intersection until it hits Mansell, then it jogs to the west until it hit Howes Road, and then it goes north again. So you basically have 2 state route intersections at that intersection. So you have a lot of north-south traffic on 9, east-west traffic on Mansell, and then people going from, say, 400 up to Cherokee County. So there's a lot of blending of different traffic patterns in that area. We believe that some of that traffic, say some of the local traffic, some of the people that are just going to the store, getting around, would be well served by having a grid system where they can make transportation options that they don't have available to them right now. And we believe there's a lot of businesses that would benefit greatly. This is a very large UPS distribution center here, which has a high number of volume of vehicles. Any number of them that are trying to leave this and going west have to go either north up to Hembry or south down to Mansell, because they have no ability to go west right now. So that's just one example of many that there's numerous distribution centers in that whole Hembry industrial complex that would benefit greatly. Number of car dealerships and automotive light industrial in this area that would also benefit. So not only from a traffic standpoint, but from an economic development standpoint, we believe this is going to be just a great shot in the arm for the city.
Thank you. Move to approve.
Please turn on your microphone.
This is a motion to split the $56,000 cost with the CID. Mr. DiPolito, is that conditioned upon the CID also approving this?
That's
their
correct.
half?
That's correct.
So that's a motion by Councilmember DiPolito. Is there a second? Councilmember Price, is that a second? Second by Councilmember Price. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Any further discussion by council? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. At this time, our city attorney has a recommendation for closure to discuss acquisition of real estate, personnel, and litigation. Do we have a motion for closure? Motion by Councilmember Wynn for closure. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Eichelhart. All in favor, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We're adjourned. We'll have a meeting in room 220 to discuss the comprehensive plan and transportation plans.